Book 1, Law of Salimi, Chapter 24, The Unidentified Flying Letter, UFL. Honestly speaking, I cannot remember the exact date that this event occurred to students at UiTM campus Manggatal. However, I do remember the details of what exactly happened on that particular day. When the event occurred, I was with my friends at Islamic Center of UiTM campus Manggatal. It was very possible that this event occurred during my second semester studying at the campus. Nonetheless, the story began with an unknown student began writing an open letter while remaining anonymous. The letter highlighted the issues that existed and how the students disagree with how the issues were handled by the management staffs of UiTM campus Manggatal. The reason that this particular letter was known as flying letter was because it was directly translated from the Malay term of surat layang. The concept of flying letter was an anonymous individual posted the letter around the campus intended to be read by the master students and staffs at UiTM campus Manggatal. The reason for making it as publicly as possible was to avoid the possibility that certain individuals who the letter was intended for might take the decision to conceal the letter from the knowledge of the masses. Generally, sending this kind of open letter publicly was known to be rebellious action and to be frowned upon, as it was considered to be unprofessional. Nevertheless, I am not defending anyone on this matter, but I do side with the unknown sender because I assume that the person might already had sent several letters of complaint which might have been ignored previously before deciding to send this open letter. In all honesty, I did not had the chance to even read the letter because it was already taken down by UiTM staffs. However, I did hear a lot of commotion about it around the campus. In addition, there was an announcement for all students to attend a compulsory assembly in the main hall. Eventually, the whole event led to the assembly of all students at UiTM campus Manggatal, which was something that has never happened before, at least to my limited knowledge studying at UiTM campus Manggatal. The assembly highlighted the fact that sending such letter was not an acceptable practice among students at the campus, which most of the students seemed to understand. Now, the assembly began to discuss the issue being raised by the letter, which one of the staff vehemently tried to ignore and shun at every moment. Later, before the assembly was done, the staff began to open question session from the students in order to avoid any future open letter at the campus. In a normal environment, when an open question session was allowed, in most cases there will be no students participating because it was not a natural culture for students to be brave enough to directly pose questions to UiTM staff, especially in front of hundreds of students on the campus. The pressure can be too overwhelming, considering that every male student was looking directly at you while your picture was transmitted to a huge monitor on the other hall filled with every female students at UiTM campus Manggatal. The stress could be very intimidating and might easily rob the bravery of any students. However, this condition would normally apply to normal and average student. After reading this book from the very beginning or hearing about the book, you, the reader, should already be knowledgeable enough to know that I was and still is not a normal student. Nonetheless, it was never my intention to attend the assembly, which was during the night during the night time, and started to participate in the question session. When I was sitting around my friends, one of them began writing down several issues that requires the attention of UiTM staff. When he passed the written notes to the person who was voluntarily offered to speak on our behalf, the students suddenly began to experience some sort of panic attack and started to refuse on voicing out the issues written in the notes. Later, the notes were being passed around where no students were brave enough to take up the challenge and talk in front of every student of UiTM campus Magatal and several UiTM staff, giving you tremendous pressure. Finally, someone decided to grab the notes and pass it to my hand. As all of my friends were looking at me, silently pressuring me to represent them and speak on the microphone, I started to close my eyes and talk to myself. Be brave. Take up the challenge. Nothing can stop me from exacting the truth and justice. I told myself that I shouldn't fear anything on earth when doing the right thing. I should fear nothing except Allah the Almighty. After I felt ready, I opened my eyes where I discovered that I was already standing. Suddenly, I heard waves of cheers and applauses from students encouraging me to speak. I walked towards the microphone while every student was staring at me. I was the first student who was brave or stupid enough to actually hold the microphone stand. Before I started talking, I was looking at all the students pressuring me to proceed. It was my first time to actually speak in front of the public while trying not to faint or run away from my extreme shyness. Finally, I decided to hell with my fear and shyness because it was not helping anyone. So I spoke directly to the microphone. I began by saying how crazy it was for me to actually speak in front of hundreds of people since I was extremely shy individual. Next, I explained that I was standing there as a result of being pressured of my friends who had genuine issues that needed attention from UiTM staff. I heard cheers and some laughter from students, which actually calmed me down quite a bit. And then I explained all the written issues as well as several of my own issues to all of the audience in both halls. I highlighted that while writing such letter was not proper conduct, we should be focused on the real issues written on the letter and address them. At first, I was trembling all over and I had to put my hands at the back because it was shaking from fear. Later, after speaking for several minutes, I no longer felt extreme stress when speaking publicly. It seemed that I began to enjoy speaking in front of the huge crowd. I allowed myself to show to other students that there was nothing to be feared when upholding the truth and justice. As a result, after I spoke, several other students began to speak at the microphone. Eventually, the question session became very productive for students to air out their concerns and issues that requires the attention of your ITM staff. It was an important event for me to actually overcome my fear of speaking in front of the public and huge crowd of audiences. In comparison to the time where I spoke in front of all new students, this pressure was much worse. Because this was in front of all UiTM campus Manggatal students. In addition, having to use microphone, addressing several UiTM staffs, as well as conveying serious issues to the masses, which was very intimidating. I guess my existence at the campus became much more known to the students for being the first to speak in front of the huge crowds of students. This experience built up my confidence level, specifically speaking in front of very huge audiences. In addition, it helps me to have courage to communicate with any individuals regardless of their status or levels as perceived by society. It let me experience public speaking with calm and feelings of being unbounded from any fear. My heart began to experience pressure and started to learn how to manage them. It was a very good experience for me, which taught me extremely valuable life experience. It also made me more known to other students as well as several non-academic staffs at your ITM campus Manggatal. I would assume that I began to appear in the radar of certain staff who might have certain negative assumptions upon me. The same person could possibly be might be the responsible individual who had been sending spies to my room in order to gather evidences based on whatever assumption that they had made up in their minds. Even though I might sound to be a paranoid person at this point of the story, my suspicions were proved to be true when that particular individual finally began to make his existence known to me. In order to protect his identity and integrity, I would not disclose any specific information regarding this particular individual. I would simply assume that his intention was good, but simply has chosen the wrong student as his target, which was me. I would consider that this individual had a specific intention by trying to convict me with certain political based rules and regulation which was not done correctly. As a result, his action made him known as my official enemy amongst many non-academic and academic staffs at your ITM campus Manggatal. His story will be explored in the next chapter in this life story of mine. Anyway, that ends up our chapters. I hope to I'm thankful that you are enjoying. I hope you enjoy the story so far and hope to see you again in the next video. Thank you very much.